Today's episode is sponsored by AdamandEve.com. Get 50% off almost any item by entering WTF at the checkout. And we're sponsored by Audible, where you can get a free audiobook by going to audiopodcast.com/WTFpod. Let's do it.
Lock the gate!
Are we doing this? Really? Wait for it. Are we doing this? Wait for it. How? What the fuck?
WTF.
And it's also, what the fuck? What's wrong with me? It's time for WTF. What the fuck?
With Marc Maron.
Okay, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fuckstables? What the fuckupy Wall Streeters? What the fuckaricans? What the fuckamullins? What the fuckanucks? All right, let's stop there. I am Marc Maron. This is WTF. Welcome to the show. Thank you for listening to the show. Always a pleasure to sit out here in my garage. I got some new equipment, a little bit of new equipment. It's amazing what new equipment can do in terms of making me feel like a fucking idiot. I had my guy, the guy I deal with, the Mac Man. He's the guy that does the Mac stuff. But that's actually his business's name, Mac Man. But he comes over, he tells me what to buy, I buy it, now I got to sit here and figure out how to use it. I am perpetually amazed at how little I know about the technology I use. I don't know basic shit. But that's okay. I think it sounds good. It looks good. It's giving me a little more space. Picked up an extra mic. It's starting to look kind of professional in here. Don't get nervous. It's still cluttered, and there's still a lot of spiders, and it still smells a little like cat pee, and I got to throw some shit out. I just got to throw some shit out. On the show today, author Steve Almond, his book, Rock and Roll Will Save Your Life. Great book. He's got a new book coming out, a collection of stories called God Bless America. That's out this week. We'll talk to him in a few. How come nobody told me that I was having a slight midlife crisis? Why do I got to be the last one to find out that I'm having a slight midlife crisis and I've got mental and emotional problems? Where are my friends? How come no one's telling me this stuff? How come I got to wait till somebody emails me a large pamphlet titled Compensatory Narcissistic Personality Disorder, and I look at that thing, I print it up, and I'm like, well, if they know this stuff, where's the part where they tell me how to fix myself? Where's that part? I don't know about the rest of you, but some nights I lay in bed and everything's quiet and I'm just listening to myself breathe and I'm listening to my heartbeat, and that's all that's going on. And what's going on in my head is, well, this is going to end sometime. Could be now. Nope, still going. How is that healthy? It just happens sometimes, just the way my fucking brain works. Compensatory narcissistic personality disorder. That's what someone sends me to both of my email addresses. Hold on, let me say this, if I could. If you're looking for a one-stop shop for all of your favorite Comedy Central video clips, head to youtube.com/Comedy Central and hit subscribe for updates on the latest from Workaholics, Nick Schwartzen's Pretend Time, and Indecision. Can we do that? See, I was out of myself when I was doing that. Compensatory narcissistic personality disorder. Any shrinks out there? I don't generally solicit this, but what the fuck is wrong with me? I mean, I feel fine outside of laying in bed and listening to my heartbeat and listening to myself breathe and wondering when that's going to stop. Outside of that, I'm doing okay. Outside of perpetual anxiety and dread that I'm fighting with every day, even though things are going good. Who knew that being busy would make me crazy? There's some part of me that misses doing nothing. The problem is when I did nothing, I was consumed with bitterness. Compensatory narcissistic personality disorder. Now look, the disease perspective. Maybe some of you listening to me, you'll relate to this. I have to assume we have something in common, some of us. Maybe I had to read this first. These compensatory narcissistic personality disorder as a pervasive pattern of unstable, overtly narcissistic behaviors that derive from an underlying sense of insecurity and weakness rather than from genuine feelings of self-confidence and high self-esteem. Oh, so that would be what makes it different from narcissistic personality disorder. It's all based in bullshit. I don't really believe it. So let's see. It's indicated by 10 or more of the following. Seeks to create an illusion of superiority and to build up an image of self-worth, of high self-worth. Here's the second. Has disturbances in the capacity for empathy. I don't know. I drove a cat to the hospital that was hit by a car the other night. I didn't have to do that. I'm not going to check that one. That was horrible. I don't even know how to talk about it. It wasn't my cat. It was sad. It had just happened. Cat was mortally injured, and it was still breathing. And me and my neighbor Adam took him down to the emergency hospital. He was put down properly. It was horrible. Strives for recognition and prestige to compensate for the lack of a feeling of self-worth. Okay, that's me. That's one. May acquire a deprecatory attitude in which the achievements of others are ridiculed and degraded. That's two. Has persistent aspirations for glory and status. Who doesn't? Has a tendency to exaggerate and boast. Not so much. Is sensitive to how much others react to him or her. Watches and listens carefully for critical judgment and feels slighted by disapproval. Hell yeah. Is prone to feel shamed and humiliated and especially hyper anxious and vulnerable to the judgments of others. Yes, but I hide that. Covers up a sense of inadequacy and deficiency with pseudo arrogance and pseudo grandiosity. No, I think my grandiosity and arrogance is genuine. So no on that one. Has a tendency to periodic hypochondria. Are you kidding me? I just bought turmeric and saw palmetto. Alternates between feelings of emptiness and deadness and states of excitement and excess energy. Oh, shit, yes! It's over. What is there? Yeah, that's me. Entertains fantasies of greatness and constantly striving for perfection, genius, or stardom. Okay. Has a history of searching for an idealized partner and has an intense need for affirmation and confirmation in relationships. Oh, boy. Frequently entertains a wishful, exaggerated, and unrealistic concept of himself or herself, which he or she can't possibly measure up to. Uh-oh. Produces, I just have to say I'm already at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just hit 10. Produces work not up to the level of his or her abilities because of an overwhelmingly strong need for the immediate gratification of success. Don't know. Is touchy, quick to take offense at the slightest provocation, continually anticipating attack and danger, reacting with anger and fantasies of revenge when he or she feels frustrated in his or her need for constant admiration. Oh, God. Is self-conscious due to a dependence on approval from others. Suffers regularly from repetitive oscillations of self-esteem. All right, bing, bing, bing. You know, there's a few more, but there's no need to go into this. All right, so somebody fix it. How do we fix it? I mean, Jesus, man, the dimensional perspective, this sounds like a description of my show. High neuroticism, that's the heading. Chronic negative effects, including anxiety, fearfulness, tension, irritability, anger, dejection, hopelessness, guilt, shame, difficulty inhibiting impulses, for example, to eat, drink, or spend money, irrational beliefs, for example, unrealistic expectations, perfectionist demands on self, unwarranted pessimism, unfounded somatic concerns, helplessness and dependence on others for emotional support and decision making. This is our show. The show is called WTF. That was the next description of the show. I put that out into the world. It's not that bad. Well, this stuff is getting better, but I fucking hate when books get you right. It's not even a book if it's a pamphlet. So now I know what I got. Compensatory narcissistic personality disorder. I seem to function, but it seems to take a lot of fuel to function. All right, so that's me. How about you? Today's show is brought to you by Adam and Eve. If you go to adamandeve.com for a limited time, you get 50% off just about any item in the place. You get 3 adult DVDs. You get an extra gift, as you know. Getting a lot of emails from people saying, hey, vibrators aren't just for women. Hey, I can get bulk condoms. Hey, this is a pretty good deal. So all you got to do is go to adamandeve.com today for this special offer. Get 50% off one item when you type WTF for the offer code upon checkout. And when you do, you'll get the 3 free DVDs, the free extra gift, free shipping. Just WTF at adamandeve.com. Get it going. Do it up. You know what to do. A lot of stuff there for dirty things. Fun dirty things that, if done responsibly, are good. Oh, fuck. Why is the phone ringing? Why is the phone ringing in here? Why can't I turn off my cell phone or unplug my regular phone? Hello?
Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, it's David Tell.
Holy shit. What the fuck? I can't remember the last time I talked to you. What's going on?
Well, I'm just calling in to see how you are. I know you've been in a rough state lately.
What do you mean? I think I've been doing great. Have you heard something otherwise?
No, that's now ramping up your paranoia. No, I've been listening to the podcast and I really like it. And it seems like every week you have some other trial and tribulation you're trying to deal with.
Well, that's that's a very general assessment. But yeah, I've got my issues. What the fuck have you been doing? I mean, where do you go out during the day? What's happening?
Do I go out during the day? Yeah, I do. You win the world's worst interviewer contest. Yeah, I go out. No, I've been working on a show on Showtime. It's called Dave's Old Porn, and it's about retro porn. It's kind of a mystery science theater of porno.
Yeah,
and you're both porn and mystery science theater, right?
Yeah. Well, I actually watched the first episode last night of Dave's Old Porn, and I found it very entertaining. I think you finally found like an area of investigation that's that it's right up your alley, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, if one thing I know, it's porn. You know?
Yeah. Do you remember though? Do you remember do you remember the first time you ever saw porn in your life?
Yeah, I probably was. Let's see. When did my dad set up that camera? No, I know it involved a new bike. No, I remember like when I was in my teens. We were watching mostly like Swedish erotica and stuff like that,
On VHS, right?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And that's what this stuff is all about. It's, VCR, VHS tapes, the retro, hairy, very hairy. Do you like it hairy, Mark?
Yeah, I was surprised at how much hair there was. I'd forgotten that much hair existed and that it was just culturally accepted. It was actually refreshing to see. How about you? You like it?
To some degree, but as I watched more and more, since I have a tremendous collection of over 100, I have hundreds of tapes of retro porn now. So it's hard to, basically anybody who comes to my apartment, I just say, do not look in that room. And if you do, let me explain. It's kind of like the bat cave, where you have to let them in.
Sure.
But what I was trying to say is I like it a little hairy.
Yeah.
This stuff is like out of control. This is 70s, remember. This is, before Twitter and, Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So people have a lot of time to grow their hair. And
yeah.
Statement to some degree, kind of a fuck you to the man, kind of like a take back to your crotch.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, deal with this guy, huh? Find your way through this. So that room in your house, do you tell people that they should, like some people when you go to their house, they're like, could you take your shoes off? And you're like, please, leave your shoes on.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for it because today's, what we did on this show is we got a lot of the younger stars, like Whitney Cummings was on our premiere episode with Ron Jeremy.
I saw that one.
Yeah,
that was pretty wild to see. See Ron.
What do you think, Mark? You're pretty good judge of TV. So
no, I love you, man. So I mean, it was you're so fucking quick, and it was so.
No, come on, give it to me, man.
All right, I think the show is shit, and good luck with it. Great.
Wow. You know what? This happened to us. About 2 years ago when you predicted the downfall of Joey, and I said, give it a chance.
No, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was very funny to see Whitney sitting there with Ron Jeremy. What's weird about Ron Jeremy is that, I don't know what I expect out of him. I don't know if I expect him to be intelligent or some sort of wizard, but he's just an old Jew.
Well, he is very intelligent. He has a master's degree, and he was an Eagle Scout, and there's a lot more to the man than just a gigantic, huge cock. Yeah, but
if they live long enough, that point he made about like Viagra, like he was very weird about saying is like, no, I would never do Viagra, and explaining that that's why there was only like 10 guys for the entire history of porn is because most guys couldn't handle it. So he's sort of implying that Viagra actually fucked it up for everybody because now any asshole can do it.
Well, I think you're projecting now.
Am I? I thought I was reading into it. This is how I deconstructed the show. This is what my essay is going to be about.
Okay, your essay in the school of who gives a shit?
Yes.
But let me tell you this. Back then, it was kind of a risque, kind of, arty thing to do. And a lot of these people were, there weren't as many ways to kind of rebel, I think, as there are now. Like, you can rebel just by posting a hilarious video on YouTube. And back then, really it was just like, the carnival or porn.
Yeah.
And, you had to run away to one thing or the other. And it also was like, a different time. Like drugs were more accepted, not like today, where brutalized, just smoking a pot, And I think people were just cooler then. I think it was just a cooler time, personally.
Well, people seem to be having a little more fun and not worried about getting caught having that fun. So, who are the other porn stars you're going to have on?
Okay, well, we have a really great selection of both older stars, living legends, as I call them, and some of today's greatest talent. We have Seika, who you remember, of course.
Still alive, huh?
Very cool lady. Seika was in the movies Ultra Flesh and just a billion other ones that we will show clips of. Really, really cool. Nina Hartley, of course, Boogie Nights. She was a crossover talent.
Yeah.
Really cool lady. Paul Thomas, who's a director, and of course a porn star from the golden age of porn. And Georgina Spelvin, who is the godmother of porn. She was in The Devil and Miss Jones, which is kind of the, I guess before Paranormal Activities. This was kind of the kind of scary yet, saucy, sexy kind of thing. It changed like the whole terrain for porn, basically.
Well, like I watched the ones I remember from the old days when I first started watching was the opening of Misty Beethoven, Behind the Green Door, and Deep Throat. Behind the Green Door was pretty trippy.
Yeah, that's a cool flick, but like people really just think of retro as like those 3 or 4 films, but there were thousands of movies made by both really high-end movies with like plots and scripts, and then just loops of people just hanging out. It looks like they shot some of it on a Super 8 camera in a Motel 6. We have samplings of all of it, and the best stuff is the high-end, really story plot-driven material, and we have really great clips of that kind of stuff. So Nina Hartley, who is super cool, a great lady. She was in Boogie Nights. She also, was in this movie called The Ultimate Lover, and we bring her out with Bill Burr. That'll be coming up. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but that'll be coming up down the road. But
so tonight is the Squires, right? And then you got Bill Burr coming up. Who are some of the other comics? Jim Norton.
We got Jim Norton. We got Margaret Cho. We got Greg Fitzsimmons. And the comics are great because, as you all know, when you're on the road, you and I both know, your best friend on the road is porn.
Yes.
So every comic has their different take, and it's really cool to have the ladies on because, you rarely get to watch a skin flick with a chick in the room. And these girls are funny, and they're cool, and they get it.
Whitney did all right. And you've got Chelsea Handler on tonight, too.
Great.
Yeah, she did great. Chelsea Handler tonight?
Chelsea's great, yeah. She is so cool, and the Sklar brothers. And the theme is fetish. So the ultimate fetish is what? Twins. That's right. Sklar's out. Start that myth.
All right. Well, let's see. Okay, so it's on every Thursday, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Showtime. Who's the porn star? No porn star tonight?
Well, basically, it's about fetish. So it's really, I guess you could say the porn star would be me.
Okay. What are your big fetishes, Dave?
I don't know. A lot of people think feet are the biggest fetish, but that's not my thing. What do you?
Wait, is yours sadness?
Sadness, tears.
Fear.
Do you use lubricant? Is your favorite lube tears?
Yeah. Okay, you can also follow the show on Twitter it's at old porn, but the O in porn is a 0. Go to the website, davesoldporn.com. For all showtimes and listings, go to Showtime's website. And, that's the info. I enjoyed the show because you're so fucking quick and funny, and it's dirty, and it's good. I can't even imagine what the Jim Norton episode's like.
Oh, that's out of control.
Is it? Have you ever?
Really good. It's the cool thing about doing it on Showtime is that very little censorship. We do cover most of the penetration, but anything else goes, and it's all unscripted. Just comics hanging around, bringing out these living legends, giving them the tribute and celebration they deserve.
Did you think I was above it or something? Because am I going to be able to go on?
No, I asked you to do it.
Oh.
I think I asked you to do it, but you were too busy getting your Montreal speech together. That Gettysburg Address.
Cool.
I don't know. After I heard that, I put my helmet on. I was ready for war. I don't know. That was your. I hear you, and whoever knocks down these buildings will hear you.
Well, that's I had to do something.
It had to be said.
Yeah.
You did it.
Have you ever had sex with a porn star?
I think I think the furthest I've ever been was a stripper who thinks she can act. It's not really about the sex. It's more about
it's fun.
Like the fun of it. Yeah, as you saw from the show. You watched the show, right, Mark?
Yeah, I watched it last night. It was great.
Okay. As you see, like Whitney, who's like, you know, she has a network television show. She's so cool to do this kind of thing. It's really just about like, you know, we use the porn as the jumping off point. And we talk about sex. We talk about a whole bunch of stuff. And,
yeah, it's great.
But the porn, when Ron comes out, who's like always funny and always available, he came out and just like basically set us straight on a lot of stuff. And just it's cool to watch the porn stars, these living legends, watch themselves.
It is. It was great. He was like getting nostalgic.
When you you ever watch yourself like from an old evening at the Improv or something like that?
Occasionally.
I can't even watch myself on TV. I'm so ugly. I hate myself.
Oh, come on.
Like, I can only imagine like what it could be for these people. Like, wow, you know, it's like such a, you know, it's like extreme makeover, but without the good feeling at the end.
Yeah. Well, he was actually he was nostalgic. I mean, he was like, wow, I don't even remember that part, and I looked pretty good, didn't I? He was real sweet about it. It was almost as if he were jarring, you know, shaking some memories loose. He actually had forgotten an entire bar fight scene.
Isn't that crazy? Because these people do so many movies, you know, like, and then they're re-looped and you know, like scenes are thrown together and different things. And they really don't get enough credit for, like, the amazing stuff they've done. And, you know, now, like, this retro stuff, which is, I guess everybody wants to, you know, jump on the whole retro thing, but this is the real deal. These are the real movies. We haven't, like, doctored them or anything like that. But having the porn star watch it is really, it takes it to another level. And I'm not just trying to, like, promote the show. I mean, I am a whore.
Yeah.
I'm to promote the show. I mean, that really is what separates it from, like, you know, a pop-up video or something like that.
No, it's fun, man. And wait, do you have any gigs coming up you want to plug?
Yeah, I'll be in Irvine the first week of November, the 4th through the 6th, I believe.
Okay.
And that's a great club, so I'm looking forward to that. And by the way, not to, like, you know, give you a reach around here, but when I saw you at the Punchline in San Francisco, that's got to be about a year or maybe under a year ago.
Yeah.
Rocked out, you sold out, those kids were hanging on your every word. You're like the Charles Manson of, like, whatever, whatever you talk about there.
Charles Manson of the comedy nerds?
Of the nerds.
Finally, I've got something. All right,
got
Dave.
A fan base. Lead them to safety.
I'll try. All right, Dave. So
lead them to funny.
I'm trying to lead them to funny.
Thanks for having me, man. And you got my stuff. Check it out. Follow it on Twitter. All the other things you're supposed to do in today's times. But possibly, if you love porn, you're going to like this show.
All right, Dave. It's good talking to you, man.
All right, brother.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
So lovely to talk to Dave Attell. He makes me fucking laugh. Hey, did I mention this? Did I go over this? Did this happen yet? Are we there yet? We're also sponsored by Audible.com today. You can get yourself a free audiobook download. If you go to audiblepodcast.com/WTFpod, you can get yourself a sweet free audiobook download on me. How would that be? Why don't you go do a little search on our guest today? Our guest is Steve Almond, and I did a little search on him. I went ahead and checked out. There is audiobooks available. He seems to be on a lot of collections of erotica. But his book, Candy Freak, A Journey Through the Chocolate Underbelly of America, is available right there at audible.com. So go to audiblepodcast.com/WTFpod. Get that free book on me. Have fun with it. Stick it in your head. Do that. So, now tell me about this. Not the Nazi fetish, but the commencement address.
No, interestingly, there's an intersection.
Yeah,
because all I talked about was my Nazi fetishism.
Kids,
because they were trying.
Hitler was right, and that's coming from a Jew.
Well, everybody. Why don't they talk about the paintings?
Yeah.
Why don't they talk about the paintings?
Give the guy a break. Cut him some slack.
Well, they all want to know, kind of, how do I get to where you are? Which, they're students of, they're budding artists, and what are you supposed to say? Like, if I were you, I wouldn't want to get to where I am. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure people have the same dynamic with you. Like, Mark, how can I have that life? And you're like, really?
I do that all the time now. I mean, I used to be I used to not engage. Well, my guest today in the garage here, the Cat Ranch, Steve Almond, the author of Rock and Roll Will Save Your Life and a number of other books. A small book he just gave me called Letters from People Who Hate Me, which I understand.
Yeah.
And you wrote some, what's the other nonfiction books? I'm not a guy that does research. You listen to the show.
Yeah, I know.
But you're a guy that writes, and you do it for real. And you've had some success with it. You're giving commencement addresses, and people love this book. I love this book. Rock and Roll Will Save Your Life. Save mine.
Yeah, well, I appreciate all that, because I know that you're a very cranky bastard.
Well, look, I got Keith Richards' Life right here next to it, sitting on I can't let this thing go.
Yeah, no, that could be worth money. I would hold on to that.
Really? Why?
Because he's going to die.
Well, yeah, but they'll still have the book. But this, I guess, it's the first printing. Did you read it?
No, I didn't read it.
What's wrong with you? Are we not? Do you want to stay and do the interview? I mean, how could you not read? Maybe you're not a. Well, yeah,
I'm a Stones fan. But something told me, and people have told me it's a great book, but it's not like, hey, I want to hear what Keith Richards has to say for 500 pages. I guess it'd be great stories, right?
No, you'd be surprised. See, what you're doing is holding on to your idea of Keith Richards. You're not letting Keith Richards...
Break me down, man.
You're not letting Keith Richards live.
Fuck.
You just want to keep him in that box, the junkie box, the rhythm guitar box, the outlaw box. He is all those things, Steve.
Yeah.
But it turns out he's a very intelligent, thoughtful, philosophical guy.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You know, it's the problem is the Stones... I fell off of them so hard, and they're just completely monetizing, and I know he's the cool junkie part of that fucking corporation, but it's still a corporation.
All right, well, look, some people outlive their integrity.
Yeah, by just here 20 years here or there. But come on.
But when it comes right down to, what did you expect them to do? Stop? Did you expect them to go back to bars? I mean, what do you really expect out of them?
Yeah, I expect them to stop, dude. I expect them to stop with their 19 Bentleys and their 15-year-old models and just fucking stop and make it a hobby in the fucking garage. Don't go out and get a sponsor and monetize us swimming in their fucking backwash again. And I get it. It's capitalism, but there's so many shitty fucking decisions that result from it's just capitalism. What are you going to do? I mean, they have to fucking make millions and millions more dollars or end up on the street buying shitty heroin.
Well, look, Keith hangs that on Mick. So if there's any way I can
I'm sure Mick in his eminent macho-ness, forces Keith Richards onto the road. Come on.
Well, no, the way it's depicted in the book is that, I mean, for the most part, Keith Richards, though it doesn't seem like he was ever hurting, was definitely on the run, and was definitely, could give a fuck one way or the other.
Are you going to try and make me feel sorry for Keith Richards? Is Keith Richards going to be your tragic hero, just dragged onto tour with Visa and Target? Okay,
there's part of that. All right, so back to the commencement address. Somebody asks Steve Almond with this attitude to speak to children.
The best part about it.
What was the college? What was the college?
I'm not kidding. I shouldn't besmirch their good name. It was the University of Riverside's Palm Desert MFA. It's a low residency MFA, so it's just like a summer camp for people who want to write. People who are just ground down by the marketing and they want to do something more interesting. And
where is it? It's out in Desert?
It's out in Palm Springs.
Okay.
It is like the most dissonant, like a little band of depressives who are just plunked in this resort setting that is like a petri dish for reality TV. Just awful tattoos and tan. Like the swimming pools are covered in a thick film of just like suntan lotion and spermatoza and spray tan.
Nice.
That's the whole thing. Yeah, it's delicious.
That's a tide pool. We're waiting for something to evolve out of there. The next generation of writers will start crawling from as a single-celled organism out of the pool at this resort college.
Or they just put a little bit of saline and it grows into an entire breast. It's beautiful. But the best thing about this commencement address, our little event was being held next door to a giant ballroom where the U.S. Marine Corps was welcoming a bunch of troops back from Afghanistan, all of whom had survived in their entire unit, and so there was great happiness. But I, of course, this is the way my mind runs. I'm getting ready to do my fucking dumb speech about Nazi fetishism, and I go over and just sort of check out what's going on in the other ballroom. It's all these fucking Marines, just looking very trim in dress uniform.
Guys with real balls?
Guys with real genitalia. Yeah. And I just kept thinking, what happens if I'm just like, hey, I smell some fucking Marine Corps pussy? I mean, what happens? How quickly, and not just am I annihilated, I'm vaporized almost instantly, but how quickly do they run through the room?
Yeah.
of a bunch of MFAs.
I bet you. I think
with their faculty.
I bet you it would happen quietly and with an efficiency that would be more frightening than the result of that efficiency. It'd just be like one guy would quietly walk over and grab you in a very specific way, and you would start crying and saying your mother's name out loud, and he would walk you out.
And it's over. Yeah,
he would walk you to the podium like he was holding a kitten.
It's over. It's my lie, but just on mute.
So what did you say to these kids?
What did I say? I mean, basically because I've been in a depression and been trying to write a novel and felt overwhelmed and just down on myself and full of anxiety and dread.
Great way to go in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, with full confidence. And I basically said, it never gets easier. So you better try as hard as you can to enjoy the process because it is not going to get easier. It doesn't matter if you have some books. We are living in such a tiny little world that, our version of fame is not going to bring you anything. So you better just enjoy any of the American fantasy bullshit, money and self-esteem.
How come I just picture one guy like...
Yeah.
Where hats were flung.
No, not at all. There were some aimed, but there were none. Yeah.
Some hats were bowed down.
Yeah.
Like
it was sweet. It was a sweet deal, and they basically appreciate that because the worst thing you can have in the commencement speaker world that I've done too, so I'm going to speak as a world's leading authority, is just that kind of smug, like, wouldn't you like to be where I am? And I think in a weird way it was...
Or that assumption.
Yeah, or just where where it's clear that the speaker is saying, I know that I'm the shit because I'm the one talking to you.
Right.
Whereas my attitude was, I know that I am shit and I am talking to you.
And they couldn't get Franzen. So let's get through this.
Right, exactly. Let's just get through that. Fucking blowhard. Still blew them off. Yeah. Thanks for that. And by the way, I really enjoy your Rolling Stones poster of your hero. Oh, it's Mick Jagger, I guess. It's not even Keith Richards back there.
That is an interpretation of the original Gimme Shelter. That was for the reissue of the film done by Frank Kozik. Now, wait, are we going to shit on the Stones?
No.
You wrote a whole chapter in your book on fucking Toto and somehow celebrated it in some twisted fucking way.
Yeah, I think that's a misinterpretation of that chapter. And then you were fucking going down on the Picaro brothers and it was fucking sick and they're all doing blow and come on. That song I Bless the Rains Down Africa is an abomination. The problem is it's a very powerful virus. You cannot get rid of it. There's no cure.
It's not even a meme, it's an actual virus. Like a song, but like before we get into that though. So what's the difference between what would you like if someone asked you to write a keynote address? What does that mean to you? What's a keynote address versus a commencement? Because they seem to be similar.
And here's an odd thing. I've just reached this sort of pathetic place where I'm now being asked by very small, very desperate operations to do this, to do both keynotes and commencements. Well, I mean, the only distinction I would make, having done like 1.5 of each.
But you've done the research.
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't. No, I don't.
mean, the
research.
difference. Like, if I were to say, like, okay, this is not a commencement address, this is a keynote address, you'd go, oh, I have to make these adjustments.
Well, I just think about who's the audience and the fact that it means a great deal, especially at a commencement. So I'm not going to come in and just, mail it in.
Right.
Like, I need to think about this is a big deal and I need to try to say some things that feel honest to these people and not bullshit them, but also not just play the card that I could just sort of say what I want and I'm still going to get my check.
Yeah.
So it's very specifically that it's a big deal. They have their families there, so that all the families, and these are people who probably, I mean, come on, imagine that your kid, or some of these people are in their 30s, 40s, they have family, and they've decided to try to become an artist in this culture.
So you got to be delicate in how you shit on their dreams.
Exactly. It's like a slow suicide, and they can't even feel the razor bite. It has to be extremely like, oh, it's just a little itch.
In the guise of honesty, not in the guise of like, I've had it. Yeah. But like, let me just tell it how it is. But a keynote is something different.
Keynote is a broader audience where that it's aspiring writers, but I don't feel the same level of responsibility to sort of speak in a momentous way about the transition that they're about to take from aspiring writer in this little habitat to unemployed, debt-ridden, depressive on the brink of self-harm.
Right.
Right.
There is something to be said about the risks that one takes to be creative.
Right.
And that, if you are on that quest for truth or you do live that life where you're not, you forego any semblance of security to sort of pursue this thing for as long as it takes, and maybe forever, that that should be commended. And then you deal with all these other people, like the power, whether it be political power or executive power, that just use you as grist for their mill. I mean, that's what they're counting on. How can we run money through this guy?
Right. How can we monetize him?
And if we can't run money through him, what good is he to us?
Right.
And that's usually, those are the guys that get the best, that, if they survive their talent, they might come up with something brilliant. Maybe one thing.
Right.
But anyways, getting back to what you were asking me, I find myself, telling people who ask me for advice, just being very honest, is that don't limit yourself. I mean, comedy is one thing in the sense that if you have the chops to be a comic or a writer, figure out what the hell your voice is. Don't think in a context, and figure out how to use it. If you can't stand up on stage, write. If you can't write, work with other people. Do what you can to sort of facilitate your creativity in a way you can live with.
Right.
I mean, that's the big thing, is that a lot of times creative people, they get sold out, and they're part of it, and they don't realize they've been raped until, they're midway through it, and then they've learned to like it.
But don't you think everybody takes a patron? I mean, you've created this world where you don't have to take a patron. Here we are in your incredibly nice smelling, if I might say, garage.
Yeah.
And, you do it, and the internet makes it possible for you to have this place, and people come there because they sense that they're not going to get reamed and fucking anally raped with marketing like in every other fucking corner of our culture. So they dig it. And you've made that, but almost everybody takes patrons in order to be able to do what they really want to do, right?
I think that what I usually say is that you don't make money until you make someone else money.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah. And I think that is true in a big sense, but then you have to sort of determine what it means to make money. I mean, you can make a living without taking a patron per se. I mean, I think that I never really understood the glory of entrepreneurship until I'm sitting here with my buddy trying to figure out how to make money at this thing that's eating up a lot of our time. And I think that we should make money.
Oh, yeah.
And then, but for the first time in my life, and I've talked a little bit about this before, I feel like I've earned this money. I don't feel like this is money that's been given to me by a company to maybe get what I get done. That kind of money that ultimately ends with them going, we don't like it, but, we're glad we locked you down for a year.
But what happens when, maybe you've even spoken to this, but what happens when somebody says, oh, well, Maron created this thing. How can we fucking blow it up and get more distribution channels? Or do you just say that is zero tolerance, not interested?
Well, I'm in the position where I'm still the guy that they have to ask. So it really comes down to what can I live with selling. I do advertising.
Right.
I don't mind selling dildos. I'm not too. I don't.
Who does?
Yeah, I don't mind
for that.
I don't mind selling audiobooks. I've tried a little out of the box things that didn't really work. I couldn't sell man grates. I don't have a lot of grillers.
Shockingly.
And generally I find that if I can live with it, like, recently I've been doing some stuff for Comedy Central and for Turner Broadcasting, and a lot of times these guys have been on the show, so it seems to match what I'm doing. The only issue then becomes, there's a lot of ads on your show now.
Yeah.
And even if I like the ads, it still is what it is, so I'm trying to limit that. Right. But, your game is even harder. I got a lot of friends who are writers, and even if you write a great book, how do you, does anyone care?
A small portion of people do care. And I should say, I am not even a mid-list author. I'm more like what they would call a cult author, which is
I'm a cult comic. I understand.
Yeah, but it's a different scale, I think.
Sure, absolutely. Not that different, actually, from where I am.
But I would say, I don't know how many people listen to WTF. I would say it's probably, more than 100,000, right?
Yeah.
All right. The most
if
people
you sold that many books.
Yeah, exactly. The most people who've ever read one of my books, I had one book that was the outlier that probably 50,000 people have read. And
Which one was that?
I can't even remember. It was about Candy Freak.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So it's a book about candy. Makes sense, right?
Is it really about candy?
Yeah. It's a book entirely about my obsession with candy and the confectionery industry and late model capitalism. And I traveled around all these places and tried to find the candy bars of my youth. And it's a weird fucking crazy memoir that's partly about my own depression and self-medicating with candy, but it's also about the industry and it's about the homogenization of late model capitalism. It's all this stuff rolled up together. And Sugar, exactly. And the pitch is, it's Tootsie Rolls, they'll love it. And in fact, people do. And they want to talk with me about Tootsie Rolls. They take the book at whatever level. It's their book after it leaves my desk.
Right.
But It did okay, but every other book I've written has sold maybe 5,000 to 10,000 copies, which is great. I'm honored. That's awesome. I thank all of my readers.
It is good, though. A lot of people don't realize that in order to get on the New York Times bestseller list, sometimes 10,000 will do it.
Maybe not that list, but it certainly, like, you know, at the extended list, if you sell enough at a particular time, you can get on there. But the larger point is that 99% of writers are basically not making money from their books and are finding other ways. And I'm talking about literary writers, not trying to be snobby, but it's like Clancy's doing fine, Stephen King's doing fine, the genre writers, the people who are celebrities or celebrities, people who fuck celebrities or any of those books are doing great.
Right.
Those are pop cultural products. They're different things. They're like an adjunct to the East, network.
Right.
But the actual, wonder what's happening inside me. Why aren't I happier? Or how do I get happy or stay happy? Or, that kind of, I don't mean self-help, but the stuff that's concerned with people's internal lives.
Yeah.
And ask the reader to engage with their imaginations.
The lifelong question of why.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Exactly. That kind of book just doesn't sell. I can't figure out why we can't monetize deep concentration. I mean, our culture is so focused right now. We're so, everybody, there's a zillion channels.
It also goes back to the candy metaphor. I mean, if it doesn't have a happy ending or if it doesn't sweeten things, who the fuck, people can't handle it.
I disagree with that.
Culturally.
Culturally, what I think the problem with books is that they just ask people to do something that is completely antithetical to where we're at as a culture right now.
Read?
Sit there with one thing. It's got one fucking app, okay? It's got one fucking language. You look, you convert the specs into,
There's no touching or clicking. You have to turn a page, but not even
touching
that
or
now.
clicking. You don't get Holden Caulfield. You have to dream him up. Your Holden Caulfield sounds different from everybody else's. He lives inside your head.
Right.
They're not going to feed it to you on a plate. You
Right.
don't get the images and the fucking soundtrack and the corporate synergy. It asks people to do something that's really inconvenient, and we live in the age where convenience is the god of all things. So there's a limit to how big I think a literary writer can get, or at least somebody like me is going to get. And I mean, my poor publisher Random House found this out the hard way. They thought, Almond, he's kind of edgy and writes about sex, and he's really busy and writes a lot, and seems to have a devoted audience. We'll kick him up to the next level. We'll throw a bunch of money at him and kick him up to the next level. And with our corporate synergy, blah, 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 and they fucking took a bath because I sold 10,000 copies of each book. The readers who found it loved it, but everybody else was like,
but did they really take a bath? I mean,
yes, I promise you. Yes.
So you made out all right. And,
yes.
and for this book, and then you didn't make it back for them.
Yeah, but not only did
I supposed to feel bad for Random House?
No, please don't. But the twisted fucking sick thing is I'm now going to try to make you feel bad for me. But what I did was I took a bunch of money and said, all right, well, everybody wants to be called up from AA to the big leagues. I mean, that's the dream. And kid, we love your swing and you want to make your star. And, but all I feel now is a sense of kind of like, I failed. They tried. It's not like they weren't trying to make these books successful. And I just fucking don't have the intelligence or humor or eloquence or whatever's required to break through and suddenly have a big audience where it moves inches slightly closer to the, to the margin of the culture.
So you're beating the shit out of yourself.
Correct.
Did you give the money back?
I didn't give him money back.
Okay, well, I'm glad you didn't beat yourself up that much. Look, you guys, maybe it didn't work out between us. Here's some of your money back.
But you know what?
Thanks for believing in me.
But the truth, and I do thank them, but the truth of the matter is, I said to my wife when this offer came through, which was by a factor of like 10 more than I'd ever been offered for anything. It was like, what, you want to do what?
Yeah.
You have your head examined. I said to her, this doesn't feel right. This does not feel like, I don't like how this feels.
A lot of expectation.
A lot of expectation and a benighted sense that somehow they're going to be able to monetize me, my Judaic, belly-aching, troubled, kafutzeled. It's just...
But there's a long history of that in letters.
Yeah, but it's. I felt like saying they're like, I'm not going to be as funny as David Sedaris. I'm not going to be as smart as David Foster Wallace. Like, please be realistic. Don't make this terrible decision that I'm going to be forced to go with because there's money involved.
You didn't say that.
You
thought
I
it.
said it to my wife.
Right.
And she was like, "You're crazy. We got to buy a house. I'm going to have a baby." You know. So.
But see, I do the same fucking thing you do, and it's hanging over me now because I did a book deal with Random House. I mean, I don't know who you're with here over there.
Yeah. I was.
Right. But you know, I'm excited about it, but there's part of me that's like, I did one book before, and I have friends who are writers. I mean, I got Lipside, who's my best friend. He's a fucking great. He's
unbelievable writer.
Genius, you know?
Yeah.
But I always think that writing is the most labor intensive of the arts in a way, because it's just you sitting there wrestling with you,
right.
and you have to fill these fucking pages up.
Right.
And it is the most, what's the word I want? It's certainly not glamorous.
Solitary, lonely.
Yeah. And
doubt choke.
It's not rewarded like other things. And also this market you're talking about, you got to cut that in half again, because it's not just appealing to everybody, it's appealing to readers. So that brings it down to what? A tenth of the population?
Oh, come on. You're being optimistic.
Oh,
You're
no.
kidding me?
So you don't have a problem with the Kindle, though. I'm still a book guy. Like, I like having books around. You look around you. I mean, it is sort of a point and click kind of thing now, but I'm sure people have read this book on Kindle.
Yeah, Rock and Roll will save you. And what am I going to say? Oh, how dare you read on a device rather than on pages? Papyrus is a noble and honorable. I recognize my attachment to the book as an artifact as something that is not in sync with the culture, but honestly, I feel like a book is a perfect cultural artifact. A ton of consciousness is squeezed into a very small space. You can carry it the fuck around. It's not that inconvenient.
Yeah.
It's a pretty efficient little artifact, and it just seems like a bad idea to, put a book onto something that allows you to do something other than read that fucking book.
Right.
Like, to have an additional place that you can scroll away from if you want. I would, and
also to try and detach from the relationship we have with books. Right. I mean, I love fucking books. I mean, look at these books. Between me and you and everybody who listens to this, have I read half of them? No. Have I started most of them?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of them, I'll just take books. I mean, if people send me books, I don't care. I just like having them around. I'm comforted by them.
Right.
Some of them mean a lot to me.
Right.
But I love them. And, but then there are those days where I look around and like, wouldn't it be great if none of this was here?
Right. It's
blank
just clutter.
slate. Yeah. Well, not just clutter, like, what am I holding on to? As we get older, I mean, what are you really holding on to? What's going to happen to this shit? Are they going to put it in a library as my book collection? What is it really doing? I haven't touched those books. You pulled that Nazi doctor book off the shelf. I don't remember the last time I touched that book.
Yeah.
But I like looking at it. But it could all go away. Don't you find that as you get older?
Yeah, but so what? They take all the books away, and then you're just like an old guy worrying about your prostate with a Kindle on your lap?
Everybody?
Yeah.
But the discussion about the creativity involved with writing, I mean, you're, clearly a depressive dude.
Right. I'm a lifer. I'm a lifer.
But when you started out doing this, I mean, how much of the romantic, it sounds like probably when you were younger, that you are living exactly your idea of what you were going to live.
Yeah, that's the kind of fucking plan ahead masochist I am. Like, yeah. Let me go about 20 years out. Older, cholesterol's fucked, really cynical, self-judgmental still, plenty of doubt, and still going every day and doing something that I hate and hating myself while I'm doing it and then afterward.
Well, so what's the resolution? Where's the book where you transcend your self-hatred?
Well, I have to say that there are occasional moments where, for instance, having written and knowing that I did battle and did well today, it's rare for me, especially being in a trough right now creatively, but that's a good feeling. And it's actually to bring it around, this is what I talked about in the commencement speech. I said to these graduating, little, budding artists, MFA students, do a better job than me of holding on to what you accomplished and how hard it is to go off in a room and make all the decisions that a writer has to make. Because the thing you do, and it's true, I don't mean to simplify comedy, because when you're trying to come up with a routine, I know that must be excruciating. You're trying to figure it out, and you're really doing it in front of people oftentimes. But you've gotten into a rhythm where you can do this. You know how to just get straight to it with people in a room, and then it's over in an hour and a half. the writer has to sit there and go and churn through however many hours and days and weeks and months of questioning his or her own decisions and being completely plagued by doubt and anxious, and then having to turn that manuscript over to friends who are going to read it and worry about that, and even worse, to an agent, who is, in fact, just a pimp, who's trying to fucking sell it to an editor, and that editor is interested maybe in
and then
the
they say things
content.
like, I don't get it, but we'll see what they say.
Could you put in an axe murderer and maybe some fellatio? I mean, whatever they say is partly, and it's just their job as a patron, is partly trying to say, how can we monetize? How can we sell this and make it successful? And they're saying that in an environment where fewer and fewer people are reading. Ironically, not because they don't need real emotion. I think people are dying of loneliness and they're dying of inauthenticity. They know that the species is fucked and nobody's telling the truth about it. And so they gravitate towards those places where they feel like they're getting something other than complete bullshit.
Right. Okay, so let's go there.
That's a great marketing tag, in other words.
Yeah. Well, I actually think it is.
Steve Almond's book, Something Other Than Complete Bullshit.
Well, I mean, I think the idea now, because I'm assuming that when you say the species is fucked, you're not talking in necessarily an apocalyptic way. Because I am of the mind that the species is fucked because of our need to function in our lives does not honor our inner voices at all. That our need to pass and appear as an efficient cog in a relationship or a job or any sort of career trajectory does not honor exactly the voice that you're talking about, the why. And, I'm sad, I'm in pain, am I good enough, and all that stuff. And it just seems that there are areas where people extract this emotion you're talking about, because the emotion that one can engage with in a book that's well written by a guy or a woman who is really crafting something is there's a context to it. Whereas I think because of this immediacy you're talking about, that when you start to watch reality shows, when you start to watch even shows like Intervention, which, despite myself, I find engaging and helpful, and even stuff like I'm compulsively watching Chopped on the Food Channel, is that people are engaging and experiencing this emotional enmeshment with these things because they don't know how to honor their inner life. Now, a good book will challenge somebody enough to identify, as opposed to just consume emotion and enmesh with that.
The word I like to use is a good piece of art, whether it's a movie or TV but books especially, they implicate the reader. You're not just looking and observing the emotion and sort of, looking down on these characters and maybe connecting a little bit to their hope, but they're at a distance from you. And they're going to do dumb shit because it's reality TV. And you know that they've absorbed all the tropes of scripted TV, and they now, they know who's going to be the villain and how to humiliate themselves, and that's what the cameras want, and how to basically how to actually empty out anything authentic in themselves and just fill themselves with the fucking tripe of Hollywood tropes that have been around for years. Like reality TV is so patently artificial at this point, it's just unbelievable.
But it's just interesting that I find that, there's a certain energy that exists in media that there's only reality shows, if they're dealing with real people, has this frenetic almost sort of God, I'm glad I'm not that guy, or I identify with these struggles, but I'm still not that guy, and I may not even identify what's in myself that I'm relating to. But then there's this other thing, which is genuine honesty and real struggle that isn't really represented in an embracing way in almost any medium.
To me, I feel like they could. If I could get a hold of the master tapes of what's happening in Jersey Shore, for instance, I would choose a completely different set of video footage to air for a half an hour or 22 minutes, whatever it is. Not the contrived, oh, hey, let's, pour liquor down these mooks' fucking throats and see if they punch each other or show a tit. But actually the moments where you can see how desperately bored and needy and lost these people are, and how hard they are trying to find something authentic, find some real drama.
So that's how the species is in trouble.
Well,
how do you address the lack of authenticity?
Well, what I would say is it doesn't just have to do with authenticity. It has to do with, if I can't recognize my own sorrow and acknowledge it and just sit with it and recognize, you're not going to be able to recognize the suffering of other people.
So that's where empathy is being annihilated because of the narcissistic culture.
Yeah, all right. But I would say that, I guess. I mean, that sounds a little bit declamatory, but okay. that's a pretty good summary of it. That good art is intended, good writing, good art of any sort is intended to make people feel more than they did before, so that they are unable to start treating immigrants to this country or people in developing world or sick children, any of the other people we shit on every day in the political world. If people felt more, if they could imagine the suffering of other people, they just wouldn't do that. We wouldn't have a whole crazy kleptomaniac, psychotic, sociopathic right wing in this country, because there would be, everybody else would say that's actually criminally insane behavior. Everybody you're talking about is a person. You just happen to have been born lucky, right?
And also, but
or they would look at the environmental ruin that's happening and say, you know what? The people who are really smart recognize that we're fucked if we don't reverse things immediately and start living in a slightly less convenient way and find solutions that our big brains, allow us to come to if we'll just be patient and agree to inconvenience ourselves a little bit for a second.
All right. So knowing that, because I know that as well.
Right.
And I spent a couple of years, speaking to that, speaking against, not only the right wing, but just a type of, self-involvement that manifests itself as apathy.
Right.
That is our culture.
Right.
More than politics, when it comes down to individuals, as I said before, what people are managing is really their emotions, in the sense that they don't want to experience them.
Right.
So they're shutting shit off
right.
in order to function in the culture that we've created. And I think that the culture of convenience that you talked about
right.
becomes almost a way of, it retards us.
Right. I mean, I was walking around this resort area that this MFA was in, and it was literally filled with, 20-somethings, scantily dressed, all tanned and muscled up and titted up. And I was like, oh my God, I'm moving through a body culture. These people are all about hormones and bodies, and they are about complete abnegation of anything that's really happening inside them, anything we could call existential, where they think, why am I here? What makes me happy? How am I going to find love? How am I not going to fuck it up? All the big essential questions that people should be asking if they want to really take advantage of the 80 years or so, if they're lucky, they have on Earth.
Right. So isn't the real risk then, because we assume as sort of old school thinkers and fans of existential struggle, that these things are inherently human, which they are. All literature and art and culture indicates that these struggles are ever present.
Right.
That we're just designed that way.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that outside of environmental disasters and political genocide or whatever you want to call it,
right.
that there is a real risk that if the adaptation of the human being to the age of convenience and shallowness continues at its current pace, that those will no longer be elements of concern.
No, and
that the expectation will be different.
What I said to these students also was, look, our job is, we're sunk as a species if we cannot engage with acts of imagination. We're just dead, because our central job isn't to banish the wicked or take care of the sick or preserve liberty or any of that other bullshit. It's just to imagine the suffering of other people, so that even if we're not suffering, everybody collectively agrees we got to take care of things. We got to take care of all the stuff where people end up getting hurt, because you can actually imagine that how do we become different from animals? At a certain point, we develop the capacity to imagine possible bad outcomes and avoid them, figure out ways to avoid them. Global warming is the biggest example. But also, we develop the capacity to recognize that we love people, and if somebody dies, they should be mourned, and if somebody's sick, we should care for them, and if somebody has less than we have, then we should share with them. All the basic shit that Christ was peddling before the Romans made their big business decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That stuff is, and we're trying to build it into all our holy texts and so forth, but are we living like the Romans right now, or what?
Well,
dude, we would
kill
kill Christ. We would nail him to the cross so fucking fast.
Yeah, we just do it on Twitter.
He's a homeless socialist fucking, exactly. We would.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is that as interconnected as we all are with this great machine of convenience and this great culture of interconnectivity through technology, is that we've never been more selfish and
lost and lonely,
right?
And
but I think
atomized.
But the thing is that once you start talking in these absolute terms about what is right and what is wrong and how we should behave, that there's also a part of the individual who's already sitting around going, well, it's not my yard, so
right.
How does it really concern me?
Right.
It's not raining shit yet,
right.
But it is actually,
right.
But it doesn't, it really has nothing to do with my immediate life. It's one of the reasons why I pulled out of partisan politics,
Right.
bickering, is that like the amount of input I get from talking freely here about my own sadness and frustration,
Right.
and feeling marginalized from the culture you're talking about.
Right.
Like I get a lot of email from people who were like, I thought I was alone.
Right.
You got me through a dark time.
Right.
I never thought about it like that.
Right. In other words, you're getting emails from people who are hungry for some authentic voice of compassion. We could say on the left, fuck it, just in the culture, some voice of compassion and authenticity that says we are destroying ourselves as a species. Your own grandchildren and kids are fucked if we don't figure out a way to solve certain basic
let me ask you a question
problems.
then.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me ask you a question, and and I agree with what you're saying, and
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be didactic. I just get upset about it.
No, but I try to address this stuff. I mean, a very conscious decision to try to address this stuff, directly. What do I do?
Right.
And not, like, what do I think should be done?
Right.
Or what am I saying? What am
How
I paying?
am I living up to it?
What, not even that, what, as opposed to just paying lip service to stuff, is that there's a moment where and I'm just recently, really in the last year, getting in touch with my own empathy and any sort of attempt at selflessness that is genuine.
Right.
Because that's a tall order for a person.
Yeah,
and it takes a unique person to have that innately. There are some people that do that. Some people are genuinely nurturing, and some people don't think about it. And then of
the
course,
rest of us have fucked up families.
well, there's and also, but the rest of us, if you're smart enough, or you are looking it as a shortcoming,
Right.
are pathologizing everything.
Right.
Everything is pathologized. There's codependency, there's there's enabling, there's addiction, there's all these other problems that everything can become pathologized, and that in a lot of ways, as helpful as it is, really insulates the self even more. So what I'm asking myself is that feeling of giving, or that feeling of allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Right.
Enough to actually be there emotionally for somebody else,
Right.
maybe even someone you don't know,
Right.
is an overwhelming and almost frightening moment for some people. You're dealing with a lot more people who are like, I don't know who I am. What am I going to
Right.
do? Like, I feel sad. My dog is sick. I wish I could help that guy.
Right.
And within, like, you go 3 more steps down whatever I was just doing, and you're depressed.
Right.
And you're overwhelmed with this sort of anxiety.
Right.
So how do you connect those two and make it genuine?
Yeah.
That's the struggle.
Right.
And not to make some sort of hackneyed transition in the conversation. I mean, I wish well for people, but even as a person that has the same concerns you do, there has to be a point where, like, I'm doing this in my life, and on some level it's the most I can do. And even with a platform, if I was to sit here and say, we got to do something about the fucking hole in the ozone,
Right.
we got to do something about the ice. I'm losing polar bears every day.
Right.
Right now a polar bear is gasping for air, and I love polar bears.
Right.
I mean, maybe a few people will listen to that, but I don't think it's going to facilitate change.
Right.
Whereas if I can be honest with my own struggles with this, like I said the other day, I don't know why I said it, but like everybody should just, be nice to an old person in a non-condescending way.
Right.
Just
Right.
once this week.
Yeah, they're a lot smarter. They've gone through more than we have. But you also have figured out that the best thing you can do, and what you do is be genuine about whatever's going on in your life in one space a couple of times a week in a way that other people can plug into and feel great relief in doing so, because they're like, finally, a zone of somebody wrestling with what's going on in this particular way.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think it speaks to what we're talking about in terms of music is, like, last night I was melancholy because I was thinking about music, actually. That you speak a little bit to it in the book, that there's a fine line between being nostalgic and being melancholy. That there's a time travel element to music and how it captures emotions and frames them, and frames a moment in your life and holds it in your memory that I rely on.
Yeah.
So there are those moments where it's like, I was a different person when I was 15.
Yeah.
And then when I was 20, and then when I was 25, and all of those are marked by music. And it, like, to the point where it's like my identity, or what I was struggling with, is revealed in these moments, and you can feel it in your body when you hear certain songs.
That's why classic rock exists, and you can slag it all you want, but the boys are back in town. You hear that song. For me, I'm like, fucking Thin Lizzy, man. There it is. My fucking brother might have some pot, and I might fucking finger a girl. And you're right back there. And that's why I can't get rid of any of my CDs. So just they're time machines. I'm like, are you crazy? That's a time machine. It cost me $5.99 in 1989. It's a time machine.
Yeah. And the power of that is that, because this morning I became more nostalgic. And it also goes into what you're talking about before, is that, what has my life been made out of? Who am I as a person? What defines me? And in those moments is that you can actually map your evolution. Now, if you're still sitting there saying, this is the best music ever made and I don't listen to anything else, then somehow you've stopped it. Like, maybe I'll finger a girl.
Yeah.
But, I can sort of mark my personal evolution at those moments in my life where people have said, have you heard this? And I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And then you bring that thing home and you're like, I'm on another planet, man.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was funny because I'm thinking about this in relation to Pardo.
Yeah.
Because, I've talked with Pardo. I mean, that guy, it's almost like performance art, his take on music. He is so deeply into Chicago and so unaware that there's any other way of being than being deeply into Chicago. Like,
the band Chicago?
Satira, yeah, the band, not the city, the band Chicago.
Oh, no.
But not even, it's not like... It's like there's some amazing, miraculous force field around him that is completely impervious to the idea that Chicago would be held up for any kind of ridicule. He just has no idea at all. It's all about early Satira, early Chicago, late Chicago.
Every day is Saturday in the park.
He's so on it. For him, like, punk rock is like Jimmy Buffett. Like, oh, that's just crazy. What is that guy doing? That's just those chord changes. But I want to be careful not to, like, Pardo's quite happy with his music.
Right.
I see him in his fucking, in his Trans Am playing in Chicago. I don't want to get down on him about that. I agree that, I'm troubled by the fact that people haven't found the artists that I think are the important, great, just they will move you.
That's a great part of the book is the relationship stuff. Oh. What do you call it in there? The point where, where you are either playing music to get laid, but then once you get into a relationship, the sort of campaign against their music and for your music, and you can't let that shit go. Like, if they like something that you don't like, you're like, really?
I was with one of the more beautiful women that I've ever been allowed to be around with, court permission, and she just started playing Air Supply, and it was like, now, in retrospect, she probably meant it a little bit ironically, and I was just such a fuck up and so self-absorbed and so determined to ruin anything that might bring me genuine happiness that I needed her to be listening to it and that to be an index that she was really not right for me. But I was like, I can't do it.
Right.
I can't do it. I'm lying alone with my head on a phone. I can't get there. Her myths, her sexual myths, her ideas of passion and relationships, if they are in any way represented by Air Supply, we are headed to divorce court. We're never even going to get there. We're going to kill each other on the way. But that, but I don't like being that kind of judgmental asshole. I hate music criticism, or I don't hate it, but I mistrust most of it.
Even Lester?
No, not Lester, because he was writing exactly what I'm interested in.
Like, I just recently, dude, like, literally, I was late to the fucking party on a lot of shit.
Right.
And once I got introduced to it, like, the first Stooges album came out in 1969. So we're talking, like, it wasn't until I read Please Kill Me, which was within the last 15 years, that I was like, I miss this, because I wasn't old enough, and I was programmed by hippies, and I was programmed by hippie radio.
They're so good at programming.
Yeah, and I was a Stones guy, but I was also a Dead guy, and I got the basics of R&B.
Dead. Wow.
Yeah. Well, that came a little later.
Yeah.
I wasn't a heavy Dead guy, but I also, there was a few people in my life that, there was that one guy that turned me on to the Residents and Fred Frith and Brian Eno, and that changed the whole game.
Right.
And then there was the kid who I knew who did the Beatles thing, and then some dude, an old dude, said, let me give you 2 or 3 R&B mixtapes. So I got Otis and everything else. And then early on, my dad gave me Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly. So I had a good base.
You had a good base. Yeah. That's a good base.
But then, like, when I finally started, even when the first Guns N' Roses album came out, I missed it. And so I've had to come back. I've had to back into this stuff. All those things to me were I had to understand why. Lester Bangs, that's why. It was within the last 2 years, man, I read his piece on Astral Weeks. Mm-hmm. And I was not a Van Morrison guy. I found him annoying. Could not listen to it. Did not want to hear Moondance again or Wild Nights. I liked Brown Eyed Girl when I was younger, and I still love that song. But then I read someone sent me that piece on Astral Weeks, and I'm like, fuck, I've got to reckon with this.
Right.
And I did, and then for like 3 weeks, it was all that was going. And now it's in place. Now I can speak to Van Morrison Yeah, I don't have to listen to them every day, but it opened another part of my brain up.
Yeah. And good music criticism can do that, but it doesn't do it by sending the message, this is really cool music and you'll be cool if you listen to it.
Yeah.
It somehow is able to, and I don't know if I was able to successfully compel people to listen to the musicians in the book who I dig, but I definitely think it's done through telling stories and personal revelation more than through the kind of bullshit celebrity coverage or the super snobby music criticism with all the stupid adjectives, jangly, blah, 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 and all their stupid
I can't read it.
bands.
I mean, I don't, and I just don't. But my second wife was a metalhead. I mean, genuine metalhead.
Like my wife.
Yeah, a lot younger than me. Grew up, Metallica. It was all about fucking Ozzy and Metallica and everything that came from there. And that was nowhere in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's tough. I would think it would be tough to be like, all right, so you just want to fucking rock to some Queensryche and then
but
we're going to make Sweet Love.
I have AC/DC in my wheelhouse.
So could you go to that place, or did you want to go to?
It's just like I kind of got a blues based cock,
right?
So like an AC/DC still.
I know that because I have the album Blues Based Cock by the Marc Maron Band. I love it. I love the single. I love all the
it needs to come from there, but with things like Metallica and with Sabbath, I could get Sabbath and I can listen to that.
It's got to
stuff.
have a little genuine blackness in it.
Got to swing something,
right?
Something's got to swing. I can't, I can't just be. But I did go. I went to concerts with her. I went to see Iron Maiden.
God, that's love.
So I was able to make that concession and actually try to embrace it. But I think your description of fandom, and I think it's important to. There was a couple points in the book were you ever a musician?
Ineptly, learned piano a little bit, but never to the point where I actually understood the language and started speaking the magic, crazy shaman language of music. No,
right.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you're just a fan.
Just a fan. I mean, look, 99% of people are just fans.
Of something.
Of something, but specifically when you're talking about music, the people who are fanatical music people, there's some people who played in a college band, whatever, didn't work out, my wife, whatever, that whole dream thing. But most people just fucking love music. And every single person has some sweet spot, whatever it is. For Pardo, it's Chicago. It's the early Chicago. It's Cetera. It's the magic.
It's also just funny that what I was thinking about before you came over was that when that wife left me, there was I put together these playlists.
Oh yeah, the mixtape,
the Heartbreak playlist.
Yeah,
and it was a weird sort of collection of things. There was that Maria McKee song from Pulp Fiction. Which it's great. She's got a powerful voice. Some Slim Harpo.
She too has a blues-based cock.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. Slim Harpo was on there, but it was it was my choice of these things, and it wasn't for me to wallow in my heartbreak, but it was for me to feel the sadness and move through it with a certain relief.
Right.
And I went on a date with some chick. And I'm playing these songs in the car.
Yeah.
But she knew right away. She was like, I know what this is, man. I know what's happening in here. I mean, this is a fucking heartbreak mixtape.
Right.
And I don't know if you're ready to be dating. But she felt it.
She sniffed it out.
Yeah.
Wow,
Isn't
that's
that
pretty
fucking insane.
Yeah, you're like, that's great. You're too insightful to be involved with me.
Yeah,
great.
Will you just fuck me though, so I can get the relief that could come?
Yeah. How'd that work out?
It worked for a little while.
Wow.
She got mad at me.
Wow.
And what are you going to do?
That's what happens. That's what happens. Then you get to have the breakup and make another tape. But that's the book is really all it's trying to say, to ham-handedly connect it with the rants we were talking earlier. Is music is there essentially to allow people to reach emotions inside themselves that are not accessible by other means. Bingo. That's what it's. And to me, as a writer, sitting there in my room with my ancient fucking runes, it is miraculous because it is immediate, it's emotional, it's physical, it happens as the music is being made, you're experiencing the
magic,
art. Right?
Because it's repeatable magic.
Right.
That's the most baffling thing. Like joke writing, that's a trick. Music is fucking magic.
Yeah.
And writing is magic too. because poetry you can read over and over again. But there's something about music.
But comedy, don't undersell comedy, because I mean, growing up, I would listen to, Richard Pryor. Mostly Richard Pryor, but I would listen to those albums again and again. I would listen to those routines again and again.
Yeah.
I mean, the good stuff.
Yeah,
you
sure,
want to plug back into it.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is the amazing thing about music is, like, I can tell now if I get a new album, because I'm always on the hunt for new dope. Like, I'm like, okay, I've got like 10 listens on this where it's just going to fucking kill me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be like, yes, it's the heroin is working. And then I know it's going to tail off. So I preserve it.
Oh yeah, no, you got to.
You got to like stretch it out a little bit. When I was a kid, it'd just be like, hit me again. I know, find a fucking vein on my toe. That's fine.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, I know that this is going to make a super big impact, and then
can I put it away?
Now once, now once I know all the things and what's coming, it's not as exciting anymore. It's like love, It's always exciting the first time. That's it, or the first few times.
It reminds me of this moment I had with I was at Louis C.K.'s house years ago. It was probably early '90s, maybe. And that tape had just been, it was before YouTube and everything else, but there was that tape going on around of that evangelist, Robert Tilton, that someone had, put fart sounds into, like he's very facial. So it was just this tape of, different, a montage of him making these faces with like, right. And the first time he showed it to me, we were hysterical. And then he took it out and he's like, I got to put this away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? He goes, because I don't want it to lose this magic. I don't.
It's true, man.
But that is something that you don't experience with drugs, because you don't put that shit away.
Well, you don't, but it stops feeling good.
Yeah, I know. And that's a sad moment when that song just doesn't fucking lift up. Like, I've had that recently too with, that first or maybe the second Kings of Leon album, and a couple of other where I'm just like, I just pound it out and just keep going, and you're so happy when the magic. But AC/DC's been very consistent for a certain mood.
Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, man. You can still listen to that record or
all the early
Back
ones.
in Black. Yeah, all the early ones. But let me ask you, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but did you listen to any of the artists from the book? Because I think Ike Riley would kill you. I think he would knock you out.
I haven't gotten any Ike Riley.
Oh,
I got to get it.
Dude, just make me a promise. Do me a solid. Get Salesman and Racist. Get the record Salesman.
All right,
and
I'm going to
Racist.
go. Didn't you do it? There's a playlist at StephenAlmond.com.
StephenAlmond.com, there's a playlist, and you can just even listen to Kami Drives a Nova on that. But if you like the Stooges, what I'm hearing, the different influences, that is a record that's in your roundhouse. I mean, that is just fucking American music. It's Celtic, it's hip-hop, it's blues, it's punk, it's all that shit. It's the Clash. All of it just slammed together into the Clash of British. All your fucking music head fans are going to be like, the Clash of British are not American. All
right, so now if I don't get as much out of it as you
That's
just
cool.
explained.
That's cool.
Are we going to be all right?
It's like with my daughter. I just want you to have a no thank you bite.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Put it in
from
your
you.
head. Run it around the head a little bit.
Just a no thank you bite. You don't have to like it, but I just have a feeling that you would.
Okay, I'll do it. I mean, I'm definitely open to new music, and I don't. Are you finding?
I should have made you a mix.
Well, I can get it, but are you finding as you get older that it's harder to put more new music in your head? Or are you okay? No,
I need it even more. Yeah, because as you can tell, I'm just angry and depressed all the time. I actually.
Did you used to do drugs?
Nah,
you were not that guy.
I could never. I was a suburban variety depressive. I could never work up the chops to get that's truly self-destructive.
Oh,
I felt terrible about it. But what are you going to do?
Wow, your parents did a good job.
They're both psychoanalysts.
Are they really?
Yeah, my mom just wrote an incredible book about women's fears of giving birth to monsters.
Really?
That is a real personal
fear?
endorsement.
You mean a real monster, or just a damaged or?
Women's fears of literally giving birth to monsters, and their fears of birth as a monstrous process, and the fear that their babies are going to be in some way or another monstrous.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, very deep.
And your dad's a therapist too?
Yeah, he's a psychoanalyst too.
So you were one of those fucking kids? I only knew one other person that had two parents as shrinks. My first wife's father was a shrink.
Can I congratulate you for not being the first person on God's fucking green earth to not say, oh, your parents are psychoanalysts in whatever cool way you would do it. You absolutely did not say the thing that every fucking person says. Thank you. Sure. You didn't have like, oh, well, you must fucking stick crazy shit up your ass and fantasize about doing your mom. I mean, like every single person who I talk to where I mention this will immediately have this weird counterphobic reaction of saying, you must be crazy, just like the fireman's kid is a pyro.
Well, it's not been my experience. I mean, the real amazing thing is that you didn't go into that.
But I think in my own way, I'm trying. I mean,
I hear it.
I go in when I'm writing, especially short stories, but even like Rock and Roll Will Save Your Life. That book is an effort to kind of interrogate my own, like what you would be doing lying down on the couch.
But what is this depression thing? Because I mean, I mean, is it something you're romanticizing, or is it something that you really battle with?
No, I would never romanticize it. What I would say is it's been a little bit of a tough stretch, and there are people who have it far worse. Like, I'm not a capital D depressive. I don't take, medication to try and regulate it.
Right.
I just, when I'm up against, you know how it is in a creative career, there are times where you just feel like I can't do it. I don't have it. I'm not big enough. I can't make it happen. And you just have a sense of dread and feel doomed to failure. But it doesn't plague me all the time. It's more like,
I once wrote this line where I do it sometimes on stage, where I say, in most cases, the only difference between disappointment and depression is your level of commitment.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, that's the thing about comedy that it's the reason that my books, I guess, are considered comic, is that comedy is basically the way that you forgive your own, grief. And that's
interesting.
Well, think about it. I mean, what you do, a good joke is always something painful. The biggest fucking laugh is the most painful thing. If you took away the fact that the comedian can say it for all of us and just had it transcribed on a piece of paper, most jokes would sound deeply sad and depressing. I mean, that's what's happening with a good comedy routine. They're all about Richard Pryor, all of Richard Pryor's stuff. I remember growing up. Heartbreaking. But the comedy is the act of forgiveness. The comedy is the thing that allows him to actually say it and acknowledge it.
That's what it really is, because the pain of being human, and this is the one thing that is really difficult, and I learned it much later than most people, because people would say, the real transition to be a grown-up is realizing your limitations. But what is more painful than really realizing that, not only are you not entitled to everything, but that a lot of things, if not most, aren't going to work out.
Right.
So, and I think that is the key to the empathy you're talking about, is being able to understand that life is disappointing, it's difficult, and it's heartbreaking for fucking everybody.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that you should have the opinion of like, well, I'm just trying to fucking deal with my shit.
Right.
That should be the thing that connects us.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I think that in its best moments, that's the reason art exists, whether it's comedic art or whether it's literary art or musical art or whatever. That's the place where the fucking paintings in Lascaux, why did somebody feel the need to do that? It was some effort to say to the world, I'm here, I'm feeling something.
Yeah, and
or maybe you're feeling the same fucking thing. I don't know, but I'm feeling it.
Yeah. Let's see if this hits you where it hurts, but also elevates your humanity.
Let's see if it hits you in the blues bass cock. Let's put it right there.
All right, Steve Almond. Thanks, man.
All right.
That's our show. I am Marc Maron. That was Steve Almond. His new book, as I said, God Bless America, collection of stories, out around now. Soon, this week, maybe. God, I should do my research. Go to WTFpod.com for all your WTF pod needs. Get yourself some Just Coffee at justcoffee.coop, or link to that over at WTFpod.com. I will be in San Francisco next week at the Punchline, November 2nd through 5th, doing that thing that I do, the comedy thing. I'll be at the Neptune Theater November 25th of this month. Looking forward to that. What else have I got to tell you? Go get on the mailing list. I do that. I email you. I will email you every week if you get on my email list. If you need an episode guide, that's there. Get yourself some apps. Get an app. iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, Droid. Do all that. Oh, my God. This has gotten bigger than me. It's gotten bigger than me. Compensatory narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah, thanks for that, buddy. Thanks for sending me that. Good times.